Abortion is health care. And abortion access is the law of the land in Ohio.
Good morning and welcome to Rising. Brianna and I are back with a special post-election day edition of our show. Brianna, let's get right into it. What do the people need to know?
Well, Robbie, Democrats and pro-choicers saw major victories in Ohio, Kentucky, and Virginia. In Ohio, voters approved Issue 1, a constitutional amendment to protect the right to abortion in the state. They also approved Issue 2, which legalizes recreational marijuana for adult use, becoming the 24th state to do so. Across the border in Kentucky, voters reelected Democratic Governor Andy Beshear, who ran hard on attacking his competition's hardline pro-life policies. And in Virginia, pro-life Governor Glenn Youngkin was again denied reign over the Commonwealth legislature after Democrats retained control of the Senate and flipped the House.
Now, CNN caught up with 2024 presidential hopeful and pro-lifer Vivek Ramaswamy last night after the results came out. Let's see his reaction.
Look, I voted no on that earlier today before flying down here to Miami, but my view is, on the merits, our pro-life movement, and I am part of it, needs to be better about the way we discuss this issue. Actually talk about greater access to adoption, to child care, even go further to sexual responsibility for men. I think that too few of us are talking about these issues that can say we're not in this. It's not about a men's rights versus women's rights issue. It's a human rights issue. The fact of the matter is, Clarence Thomas brought up an example in the Dobbs case of a pregnant woman who was assaulted and asks the question of who in this country would say that that criminal doesn't deserve liability for that death. I haven't met one yet, Caitlin. And so I think we're more united on the pro-life instincts than the pro-life movement has actually been good at representing so far.
Meanwhile, over on Fox News, Sean Hannity accused Democrats of fear-mongering voters on the abortion issue.
Democrats demagogue the issue very effectively.
Well, they're trying to scare, Democrats are trying to scare women into thinking Republicans don't want abortion legal under any circumstances. If we're really going to be honest about this, and I consider myself pro-life, but I understand that's not where the country is.
President Biden, of course, declared victory, tweeting, "Tonight, Americans once again voted to protect their fundamental freedoms and democracy won." Joining us now to weigh in on the results is the expert himself, Semaphor's Dave Weigel. Hello, Dave.
Hey, good to be here.
Thank you for joining us. What are the interesting results you think you should share with us?
You ran through a few of them. Republicans had a few close defeats that I think look even bigger than they were because of the hype they went into this election with. And I was talking with pro-life activists today, and they were on record. They were very hopeful. Look, before the election, you don't want to say we're going to lose. They were very hopeful that they were going to crack the code of how to message on abortion in Ohio, in Virginia, and they just didn't. Ohio was a rout. Virginia was close in a couple of places, but they were very clear before the election. Hey, we're going to say we want reasonable limits. If we want 15-week ban, we're going to link this to parental rights and parental freedoms in Ohio. So you saw lots of ads where invoking sort of gender assignment for minors, invoking children to be raped and not tell their parents. It just didn't work. I thought it was interesting, the clip you showed at the top. Just Democratic messaging was very good. The winners in Ohio after the election were talking about abortion, abortion, abortion. The words they use on the signs included there was reproductive rights. And they rebranded to take abortion out of its name and be reproductive rights. Democrats have been saying for a year and a half, really, hey, we're going to rebrand this issue as freedom, as reproductive freedom, as personal freedom, and we're going to win on that. And they did. I mean, they did in Kentucky, I would add, too. Not always the best conditions for them. They won on that. To deal with abortion, it's very clear. The people who are in most disarray today are pro-lifers trying to figure out where they go from here.
I mean, you heard in the clip Sean Hannity saying this is a messaging failure. We messaged wrong, that for some reason the electorate thinks that Republicans want abortion not to exist in the United States of America under any circumstances. But is that just a messaging issue, or have there not been a number of Republican officials who have said exactly that they would support a federal abortion ban?
Well, there are, and also just if you philosophically, abortion's almost a simple issue, as complicated and as much money you spend on it. why do people oppose abortion rights? In many cases, it's because they think it's murder. And there's not many circumstances for somebody to say, well, I think this is the murder of a human life, but I'm willing to murder them after a couple of weeks. It's intuitively, a lot of people, when they hear somebody is opposed to abortion, they know, in a perfect world, that person would like there to be no legal abortion. They would like to protect life. They'd like people to bring babies to term even in accidents or when there's a medical problem. That is where they go, and politically they'll say, well, but we're going to go to this point. We're going to find a point that people can agree with. In Virginia, they were very open about it. I mean, lots of messaging. I wouldn't even say messaging, interviews, and I did some. Everyone did some with the Youngkin team, and they just said flat out, yeah, if you focus group this, 15 weeks polls pretty good. Lindsey Graham said the same thing. There's a Wall Street Journal poll. It polls pretty great. 15-week abortion ban. But does Lindsey Graham want to ban abortion completely? Yes, he just can't get there. I think you run out of room in underestimating people's intellects. They know that you would love to ban this. And I think Republicans understand this intuitively, because their counterattack, which didn't work, was, hey, Democrats don't want limits. All right, well, if you can understand that Democrats philosophically or pro-choicers don't want to limit it at all, don't you see why people might think you want to ban it? I'm not to say it's a little too cynical to go over, which is amazing, because cynicism rarely fails in politics, but I think it did here.
So what are we to make of the poll numbers we've been, talking all week about? Joe Biden well behind Trump in swing states, behind a generic Democrat, behind Kamala Harris, people expressing dissatisfaction with him for a variety of reasons, his age and the economic situation and so on. And yet, at the end of the day, his party does not pay a price for that. In fact, has pretty favorable outcomes following, last year the midterms were a lot more favorable to Democrats than some people predicted. I don't believe this is saying the polls are wrong. What does this mean?
No, I don't think the polls are wrong. Joe Biden is old. People think he's too old to be president. That shows up in every poll. One challenge you always have as a reporter and analyst is sometimes the story is the same story. The instinct is to say, well, there must be something new. There really isn't. Just as Democrats were saying they were going to run on abortion for a year, voters have been saying we think Joe Biden is too old for a year. They also think that some things were better in 2019 before the pandemic, and Biden is never going to get us back to them, like inflation. I do think the solace Democrats take here is governors did fine. I mean, Tate Reeves was very unpopular. Did convince enough people, especially he improved in some suburbs, convince people, hey, things are getting better. We had an inflation crisis, but I'm fixing it. In Andy Beshear in Kentucky, I got us through this floods. Look at all the new jobs. There is, at some levels, not everybody's happy. It's harder to buy a home, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're an incumbent governor and you're running on things are getting better, let's keep going, you did okay. If you're an incumbent mayor, a lot of mayors did fine with this. I mean, Indianapolis, one of the bigger cities that had a race last night, Republicans ran on the city's going to fall apart and turn into a hellhole. And the mayor said, no, I hired a bunch of cops and we've got more jobs now. And he won by 20 points. So if you are the president, you look at this and say, okay, if people can be convinced that things are getting better in their city, in their county, in their state, there's a country they could think that about. It's just that Joe Biden's old, and we end up walking around getting to that same point. How do you fix that problem? Time machine, Benjamin Button disease. I don't know how you fix that problem.
Dave, talk to me about Virginia a little bit. Not only did Youngkin fail to flip the Senate, Democrats flip the House. This is a place that has been kind of ground zero for some of the culture war battles. In the middle of all of that failure to flip and flipping for the Democrats successfully, Danica Roem became what might be, I think, is the state's first trans state senator. How do you read what has been going on in Virginia?
Yeah, that's a good point. And also, Loudoun County, I think you're starting to see some of the issues that Republicans run on separate. Danica Roem, who surprised people, won a delegate seat in 2017, built on that, won a tight Senate race. I mean, one thing Republicans will spin, which they're right about, is that they did run ahead of Donald Trump. They ran closer to Glenn Youngkin's numbers, close race, but Danica Roem won. She won. And in the school board, Loudoun County has been the focal point for let's stop critical race theory. Let's let schools inform parents if kids change their gender or identify a different gender. Democrats won the school board. They did worse in races that were based on crime, which I think is immediate. And this is the thing here. What is more likely to affect you day to day? Is it having your car broken into? Is it getting mugged? Is it a home invasion, et cetera? That is a more reasonable fear than somebody else's kid might identify as a different gender. Somebody else's kid who identifies as a different gender might play sports. Not everyone has kids in school. Not everyone who has kids in school has a problem with that. And you saw the same thing in New Jersey, which got much less attention because the only thing in play was the legislature and Democratic governor. They had trifecta. Republicans ran on parental rights. It didn't really go over. I mean, we've seen this message just not click. And after multiple attempts of this, Kentucky too, where the American Principles Project spent $2 million on anti-trans advertising. Just it has not. You can poll and find that most people agree with the conservative position on this. They have not prioritized it. It is not the reason I think that it did break out in 2021 in Virginia was in Loudoun County. There was a black swan event, horrible event, where a boy who identified as female was in the girl's bathroom, committed sexual assault. The Republican storyline became this is going to happen to all the schools with these permissive gender policies. And without that crime to fix people's minds around that, it just didn't happen. I mean, sometimes you can't talk to any interest group. There's lots of groups that want people to focus on their issue, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're just that's issue number 20 for me. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm going to vote for this Democrat because I want abortion rights to stay in place.
Yeah, at the time that Youngkin was running on that issue, I mean, there was a lot more you could bring into the conversation on schools just kind of not serving the parents well, coming out of COVID and so on, which is, I think, maybe that had more salience for some people. Before I let you go, I wanted to, what should, let's say I'm a Republican political strategist, shakily reaching for the bottle after a bad night. Is there anything I can say to myself to give myself hope for next time around?
I mean, there's a libertarian mayor of Wichita, if you're into that. Like
I am super excited about that.
Democratic
Yes.
mayor lost to.
Yeah,
there definitely is voter frustration at like the main options that they are being offered, and in places where they had a choice that okay, if we've settled these cultural war issues, we're going to go in this different direction. That's still happening. I mean, there's some stuff that's still getting counted, but you saw some radical people lose to insurgent candidates. Yeah, there's reasons to hope, but less. There does seem to be some exhaustion with culture war stuff that both parties claim that they're tired of, but keep running ads about. Yeah, so look at Wichita. Look at these places where people just said, I don't care about the party. I'm just going to fix the streets and lower your taxes.
Well, I know that I'm moving to Wichita. David Weigel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.